afternoon and welcome to all the friends of Nursery Q&A session, where we bring to you top tips to help support and nurture your child. I am Samina Kanyari, General Manager, Jumeirah International Nurseries. Today's Tricky Thursday session is a special one, as we have invited three very distinguished speakers to be on our panel. Joining us today for the first half of our session is Mrs. Joanne Leslie. She is the Deputy Head of EYFS at Regent International School. In the second half, we will be joined by Mrs. Lindsay Hammond, Head of EYFS at Sunmark School, and Mrs. Helen Salone, Assistant Head of EYFS at Sunmark School. Joanne has been part of Fortis Education and senior leadership team at Regent International School for now over 10 years. With her rich experience in early years education, Regent International School's EYFS department continues to be rated outstanding 8th consecutive year in a row. Co-hosting today's session with me are our nursery managers from our 4 beautiful and distinct branches. Mrs. Carol Oliveira, who is our nursery manager at Gins Regent The Greens. Carol has over 13 years of experience in the field of education and is extremely passionate about working with young children. Then we have with us Mrs. Laura Parton, who is our nursery manager at Gins Al Safa. Laura is early years expert with over 13 years of experience. Her passion is providing quality education for all the children in her care. Joining us from Gins Downtown Branch is Mrs. Janine Brindocke, who believes that messier the play, the better is the learning, and I could not agree more with her. Also from our Sunmark branch and working very closely with Sunmark School EYFS team is Mrs. Philippa Wallace, our nursery manager at Sunmark JVT branch. Philippa believes that positive parent partnership helps fast-track child's development. Once again, a very warm welcome to you all who are listening and watching and to our speaker, Joanne. Let's begin our session with Laura asking Joanne our very first question. Over to you, Laura.
Back to Gins. My first question is from a parent who would really like to help her child, and she'd like to understand the curriculum a little bit more. She asks, what is the curriculum at Regent International School? Joanne, could you help us with that, please?
Hi, Laura. Yeah, of course. So at Regent, we follow the British Early Years Foundation Stage curriculum, which is obviously a progressive curriculum that goes from birth to 5. Now, when the children come to EYFS, obviously we continue from where the children leave off in nursery. We also have a bit of an IB approach about the way that we deliver our teaching. So everything is very inquiry-based, very hands-on, and we want the children to investigate and do everything as practically as possible because this is how they're going to learn best. Children are at the centre of everything that we do. We take the children's interests and passions and we build our curriculum around that as well. Everything is done through play and through investigation and curiosity. And we really believe that the process is so much more important than the end product. So it's all about the skills that the children do in order to get there. That's the most important thing. And we also take best practice from around the world. So we have elements of Reggio Emilia, Montessori, and we're also working with a company in the UK, which is called the Curiosity Approach, which are now worldwide, just to have that real modern day approach to early childhood.
That's fantastic. There's a lot of answers there. I think that's really going to help our parent with understanding a little bit more about Regent International School. Let's see who has our next question.
So the next question is one that comes up time and again. The parents tend to ask us as well is, how can I help to prepare my child for an FS assessment? Is there anything they specifically need to know before starting school?
Yeah, this is a very common question that we have when preparing for assessments. And the first thing I say to parents is, please do not worry. Parents can get very anxious about the assessment because the word assessment is obviously very daunting, but actually it's very informal. It is more like a play date than an assessment. And you know, the children will play with us. We will chat to them. It's nothing formal at all. The point of the assessment is for us to gain as much information about that child as possible. So we want to know their interests. We want to know, you know, their development. So we do look for certain things just to give us the most information that we can. So things like where they're at with their language. Do they speak English, and how much, and how competent are they? You know, it is also not an issue if they don't speak English. This is just an insight for us to know how we can support them coming into school. We do look at confidence when separating from parents as well, because that gives us an insight into how we can support the child when they come into a classroom setting. We talk a lot to the parents as well during the assessment. It's not just up to the child. Again, you know, parents can have involvement. We want to know about past experiences, whether they've been to a nursery or a school before, and again, how we can support them coming to our setting. We do things like drawing, counting, you know, looking at numbers, all in a very playful way. So yeah, there's absolutely nothing to worry about at all.
Thank you, Joanne.
No problem.
Hi, Joanne. How are you?
Hello. Hi.
So my parents are asking, what if the child doesn't speak English, and how will school help them settle in?
Yeah, so children who don't speak English, we have around 60% of children in school now who don't speak English as a first language. So this is very, very common for us. What we have in school is every child will take part in our language program, which happens on a weekly basis. And every child will have opportunity to develop their language skills through that as well. If there's extra support needed, we can provide that also. At home, it would be helpful. I often just ask parents to work on those key words to help them when they come to school. So things like water, snack, toilet, things that will just help that child communicate with their teacher in order to express their needs. But yeah, it's absolutely no problem if a child doesn't speak English. They will pick it up very quickly when they're in that social classroom setting.
Thank you.
No problem.
Hi, Joanne. Our next parent has asked, how does attending nursery help children to adjust going to big school?
Okay, so starting nursery has so many benefits before coming to school. So the children will already be familiar with their classroom sort of environment, which will help them build that confidence when they're going into a new setting. They will also be familiar with, you know, communicating with different adults, with different children, and this will build on their social skills. So they will make friends a lot more easily, and it will really help them to settle a lot quicker into a school setting because they'll already be familiar with that kind of setup. I know Laura has lots of things to add to that as well.
Thank you, Joanne. I definitely do. So absolutely, making the relationships with the new adults around them, making the relationships with the new children in their class, but also something to think about is this is a first step perhaps for you as a parent. You're going on a journey in introducing yourself into a new nursery setting, getting the relationship between home and school correct. So this is your first exploration into what does nursery expect of me as a mummy or a daddy? What does nursery need from me to help to make sure my child's school journey is an exciting one? So it helps you understand what school might need from you later. Permission forms, trip consent, all of those kind of things, getting you ready for the exciting journey. And just like Joanne said, it's about making sure the child has that first exposure and they get that exciting moment. It's getting used to routines, foundations, ideas that the classroom is there for you to explore. And also, it's a wonderful opportunity to expose your child to the curriculum at an early stage. What you're actually doing is you're giving your child an excellent opportunity and advantage over others. You're giving them a head start in education. Nursery is a fantastic opportunity to allow your children to find out who they really are. Passions that might not be discovered in the home setting or even in the play park. I advocate for Nursery for every child, and if you would like to visit any of our branches, you can always reach out to any of us, and why not ask us a question during this setting? Our nursery managers are here to answer anything for you, and Miss Joanne and all of the other assistants online today, all of us are going to make sure that all of your questions answered in full, because we are truly here to help you.
We work very closely with the nursery as well. So, you know, we really do make that transition as smooth as possible.
It's important to understand if you work with Fortes Education, not only are you getting experience from the nurseries, you're getting experience from the schools. I myself work incredibly closely with Joanne and take a lot of advice and guidance from her. She's able to support my children and my staff, and we're really fortunate to have an amazing close group of team working together. Our next question, I believe, is going to be asked by Miss Samina. Let's find out what she has for us.
Thank you, Joanne and Laura. You both were very informative there. And I'm sure, Joanne, you as an expert from a school where EYFS has been outstanding in both KHDA and BSME ratings, you have put a lot of anxious minds to rest, especially the parents with children transitioning into schools for the first time. So before I let you go, I would really like to ask you one final question as to, a lot of parents want to know this. What does a day look like in the life of a child at EYFS at Regent International School?
Okay, so each class will have different activities and different things happening throughout the week. This is because every class is doing a different project. So obviously we go with the children's passions and interests. So the teacher will let their parents know what is happening for the next week. There are things that are set each week. So specialist sessions will have the same time each week. So the children do PE, they do Arabic, and they do music as well. And those times are set. Everything else around their project will be based around what the teacher plans according to the children. So we will update the parents on a weekly basis through their weekly newsletter. Throughout the day, the children have various daily routines that they follow. From when they come in the morning, they often, we encourage reading and writing skills and independence through writing their own name, identifying their own name for self-registration, counting how many children are in the class for that day. We also have number of the week and really fun ways to engage them with these academic skills. There will be a variety of activities available to the children to access independent on a daily basis. And this, you know, our environments are, as you can see, are very rich and they are very tailored to the children's needs and what they're doing at that time. And every area of the classroom provides a different skill set. So what we do is provide resources which are very open-ended, because we want the children to develop their own creativity and their own imagination. So literally they can choose an area of the classroom that they want to explore and investigate further, and opportunities are absolutely endless. They can also access an outdoor area which we call free flow. Now, outside, we try to give children opportunities that they might not necessarily be able to access inside, and that's very important for us. There's no point doing something outside which you can already do inside. So we do things like large-scale mark making, you know, gross motor, cycling, climbing, all those kinds of things happen outside. We also have a big focus on teaching the children about environmental sustainability. So we look at planting, they look after their own garden, and we teach children about recycling, and that's all part of the weekly routines as well. Throughout the day, the teacher will work with a small group of children on a focus activity, and again, the parents will be notified the week before via the newsletter about what they're specifically going to be learning about the following week.
Oh my world, Joanne, can I fill an application form and be enrolled in Regent International School?
Sorry, that was a lot of information.
That sounds so much fun. I'm sure children have a very busy day, and what a lovely insight into a child's day. But you were very, very informative, and thank you. And we really appreciate you being here with us. Jin's Tricky Thursday session, where we provide our parents with top tricks and tips to support all our parent community. To all our viewers, if you would like to know more about Regent International School or have questions for Joanne Leslie and her team at Regent International School, please click on the link in the comment box and send us your query. And I'm sure Joanne and her team would be able to take you on a tour and see all the beautiful facilities and all the lovely learning environment they have set up for their outstanding EYFS department at Regent International School. Thank you once again, Joanne, for joining us. We really appreciate it. Have a lovely day.
No problem, Samina. My pleasure. Thank you.
I'm sure for those of the parents who are looking to register and enroll in Regent International School, that gave you a quick bird's eye view of what is happening at Regent International School. For the remaining part of the session, I would like to welcome two of our other experts to the panel. Joining us now will be Mrs. Lindsay Hammond, who has over 15 years of experience in early years education. Lindsay is at the forefront of developing remarkable play-based curriculum and philosophy of learning at Sunmark School. Under her strong leadership and guidance, the Sunmark School EYFS department has received an outstanding rating year on year. Also, a very warm welcome to Mrs. Helen Salon, who is the deputy head of EYFS at Sunmark School. Helen is an early years expert who has an in-depth knowledge of early years foundation stage and key stage 1. With her outstanding knowledge and understanding of educational best practices, Helen ensures that EYFS curriculum is delivered with excellence at Sunmark School. Welcome, ladies. And our first question to you both is, like we did that with Joanne, and a lot of our parents want to ask is, what is the curriculum followed at Sunmark School? Because there are so many choices available, and it can be quite daunting for parents to understand which curriculum to go to. And we'd really appreciate an insight into that.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you, Samina. We are very similar to Regent International School. We are part of Fortis Education, so we do run in line and parallel. So a lot of what I'm going to say is probably mimicking Miss Joanne, but we are, again, a British curriculum school. We follow the early years foundation stage, but we follow the early years foundation stage with a twist, because we blend lots of practices, good practices from around the world, Reggio Emilia, the Scandinavia approach, good practices from New Zealand. We pull those approaches together to provide what we believe is the best possible start for your child that will help them build their foundations for their future, to help them become lifelong learners. This is one of my favorite quotes. So children learn as they play, but more importantly, in play, children learn how to learn. That quote underpins everything that we do here at Sunmark. We want to teach children to teach themselves. We want them to have the skills to find out things and to explore and inquire, to learn for themselves. So on top of that, I think the unique part of both Regent and Sunmark is that we're extremely personalised curriculum. Every single one of our classrooms, so our 11 foundation classrooms currently have different projects. The projects stem directly from the children's interests. They don't come from myself, they do not come from the teachers. The teachers observe the children, they find out their interests, and they take their interest further forward. Because if a child is engaged, if they're at that high level of involvement, more learning will take place. And at such a young age, this is when it's important because more synapses in the brain will be developed. So the child's engagement is crucial for their lifelong education. Not only do we personalise the classrooms, but every activity the children do within the classroom is personalised. The relationships within the classrooms are outstanding. The teachers and adults within the room know exactly where the children are and where their next steps are. So say one activity for one child is very different to another child. It's extremely personalised, day on, day out. And as Jo said, our environments in both St Markham regions are key. They're key for everything. We call it, as part of Reggio Emilia, as the third teacher. So anywhere a child will go within their class, learning will take place. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass you on to Mrs. Sloan, who's going to actually talk through a project and how a project works and about the purpose and meaning about how we run our day at St Markham.
Hi everyone. So as Lindsay said, all projects vary per class and they're all centred around the children's interests. So one of the projects I'm going to talk you through today is an FS1 project, and they were called the Camel Class. And the project was called Camel Class to the Rescue. And the reason why they the project was called that is because the children were really interested in superheroes and Paw Patrol. So it all started where I came to school on the Sunday morning and my mug, my very special mug from my mum, was lost. So I went into the Camel Class and I asked the Camel Class if Ryder could help me from Paw Patrol find my mug. But unfortunately, Ryder was extremely busy that day. So I asked the Camel Class if they could help me find my missing mug. So that was the premise of the week's learning. So that day was all centred around communication and language. The children went all the way around the EYFS department and they were asking their peers, they were asking teachers if anybody had seen my missing mug. And this looked very, very different per child. So some children had photographs to help them in their talk. Some children were saying some key words, and then other children were actually using descriptive sentences as well. Unfortunately, the day came and my mug was still lost. So the next day, the children came in and there were footprints outside my office. So then that led into a maths focus where the children were measuring the footprints. They were comparing the sizes of the footprints. And there was also fingerprints all the way around the EYFS department. So the children then used tally marks. They were counting the fingerprints to try to figure out who had taken my special mug. Again, the end of the day came, still couldn't find my very special mug. So the children in the Camel Class then decided to actually make their very own missing posters for my mug. And they put these all around the EYFS department. So that was then making marks for meaning. Still, my mug wasn't located. So the Camel Class were very sad for me now. So they then decided that whoever had taken my mug needed to go to prison. So they decided to make a very big jail with the support and the help of the teacher during the expressive arts lesson. Then at the end of the week, they finally found out it was actually Mr. Rock, one of the teachers, who had actually just borrowed the mug. So then that led into a personal, social and emotional development lesson where they were talking about, is it right to take something that doesn't belong to you before asking? The following week, this led more into the jail aspect. That's where the children's interests led. And they actually had a message from the Dubai police asking them to solve some crimes that week. So that's just an example of one project. So you can see how it was completely tailored to those children and what they want to learn. And also how all of the curriculum areas were taught through the project in a purposeful way. I'm going to pass you back now to Lindsay, who's going to talk you through the specialists.
Thank you, Helen. I do remember that project very well. And every single child was so excited during that week, so thank you. So on top of all of that, on top of play and on top of children being able to explore the classrooms, we also have various specialists. So within FS, we have Arabic specialists. They have 2 short sessions a week, and they have 2 French lessons a week. Both Arabic and French are taught in exactly the same way as we teach the English. A very play-based curriculum. They do a short activity at the beginning and then they apply it within their play. We also have a music specialist with a specialised music room, and we have physical education and PE twice a week. Prior to COVID, the children would have had, in term 1 and term 3, they would have gone swimming. Even FS1 children go swimming. So all of the children can touch the floor, so it's not a problem. We have got a training pool, and they do actually learn how to swim. It's amazing. So the class teacher always goes in the water because they're the most familiar adults. That's crucial. The PE teacher and also a swimming coach are also in the water, along with we've got the lifeguard and teaching assistant outside. So they'd have swimming for one lesson, and for the second lesson will be a physical education, which could be ball skills, it could be dance, we've done some yoga, it'd be different skills again to build up their physical development as part of our curriculum. And we also have what we've introduced this year as part of our sustainability and environments program in school is forest schools. So it has actually been the highlight of the term. All of the children within Foundation have managed to go to our forest, which, yes, it's a small forest, but for the children of a small age, it's a very big forest. And they go down to the forest every week, where they're able to develop their self-confidence, they're able to develop all of their various different skills, fine motor, gross motor. It enables the children to develop holistically. And they're also able to risk take. So forest schools will occur once a week, where the children will go down and do a forest school activity. So you can see there's a lot going on in the day. Your child is constantly engaged. And I have to say the biggest thing we value at Sunmark is that if a child is happy, more learning will take place. And that is really important to remember. Okay. Thank you, Samina. A lot of information.
Lindsay and Helen, oh my God. I mean, I was like, this is amazing. Not just the child initiator learning, the project-based learning, the third environment, the forest schools, the languages, the swimming, the extracurricular activities. These children do not stop and you don't give them a breather. So this is absolutely fantastic. And I'm sure, I mean, when Helen was talking about the project, and I was like, oh my God, a movie can be made on this. I could play all the imaginative things, and it was absolutely brilliant. Well done to you and your team for making the journeys for children so interesting at Sunmark. Our next question, which is a very interesting one, a very common one, is from JVT, and Miss Anne Philippa is going to ask you about that.
Hi, Lindsay. One of our JVT parents would like to know if their friends will move up with them in the same class once they enter big school.
I have to say, Ms. Philippa, this is the most common question I have asked from parents within JVT. The answer is clearly yes. We will endeavour to put all of the friendship children together to ensure that they're going up with their familiar children, because obviously the environment is different. So yes, don't worry, this will happen. But don't worry, if your child is not in GINS or not part of GINS JVT and they're not coming to school with friends, also please don't worry, because the first few weeks are very much dedicated to building friendships and developing that personal, social, and emotional development. The children are resilient. They're more resilient than we give them credit for. They will come in, they will make friends, and then they will flourish throughout their time here. This also leads me on to another question that lots of people have actually asked recently regarding the bubble system. Will the children be in bubbles at 10? Will this continue? The honest answer is we don't know. KHGA hasn't given us any further guidance yet about what next year will look like. So currently it will continue the same, that the children will be in stable groups of 10 and then move through. We always will endeavour and we will ensure that we follow KHGA guidelines to ensure that the children are safe, because safety is paramount.
Thank you, Lindsay. I'm sure that's put a lot of our parents' anxieties at ease, especially transitioning into a new school and new environments. And Thank you for sharing the information about the bubble system, and we look forward to new information from KHTA soon. On to our next question.
Hi, everyone. Sorry you couldn't hear me for a moment there. Thank you, Philippa. Thank you, Lindsay. It's really hard for our parents to keep updated, so it's great to hear that you're really sharing with us live KHDA updates. We really appreciate it. Our next question goes to Miss Helen, and the family member is asking, how do I prepare my child for FS1? We're asked this all the way through nursery and all the way through school. Helen, can you help us with any tips, please?
Okay, so you shouldn't have to prepare your children too much for school, as the school that you choose should be right for your children's needs at this age. However, there are a few things that you can do as parents and we can do as a school to help make this transition as easy as possible. So first of all, for parents, now I know it's a really, really scary thing. And I know myself, I have a daughter coming up to FS1 in September, and believe me, I do feel scared, but we have to be as positive as possible. That is so important, because any emotion, any feeling that we are feeling as a parent, those children are going to feel that emotion too. So the best advice is to be as positive as possible. Children are so resilient and they really do adapt to change so well, far better than lots of adults. Talk to your children about coming to big school, read stories together related to the topic, and if possible, talk to children about the new teacher or their class name. School will also put in place a transition program to make it easier for your child. So we will have staff visiting the feeder nursery for very short periods of time so that it's within COVID guidelines. And also the children will visit the big school as well. They will have library sessions, they will have game sessions, as well as lots of other activities planned for them as well. In August, we will have a parent-teacher meeting, and then followed by this, there will be a transition day. From that transition day, everybody's journey is completely different. So some children will be ready for full time after that transition day. Other children may take 2 weeks or 3 weeks to settle into school. It is so important to be completely flexible and ensure that the children are completely settled into school. We don't want to force any children in if they are not happy, as their happiness is paramount. So being flexible is part of that transition journey.
Thank you, Helen. It's really true. If we get it right in the first stages of settling in, we get it right for the rest of the academic year. So it's really important that mummies and daddies and parents out there, that you can support us with this journey so that we get the settling correct and your child has the amazing year that they deserve. Thank you, Helen. Carol's going to ask another question now. We're going to go over to Lindsay. Let's find out some more answers. Thank you.
Forgot to. Good afternoon, Lindsay, and thank you so much for joining our Jin's Tricky Thursdays this week. The next question that we have for you is, how long will it take for my child to settle into school?
Well, I think Mrs. Sloan's answered a lot of this question, but the first thing that comes to mind is, how long is a piece of string? A big part of early years is every child is different and every child is unique. Therefore, everybody's time for settling into school will vary. It can be 1 or 2 days, but it could be 2 or 3 weeks. This can be very dependent on the child. And especially now, due to a lot of children and COVID, we have a large number of children joining us in September that hasn't been to nursery. So their transition is going to look very different to a child that has been at nursery. But also, if a child's been at nursery, even from the age of 8 weeks, like my daughter, who's also, as Mrs. Sloan, is also coming to FS1 in September, transition will not, even though they've done their transition practices, they've been over to school, they've seen the environment. It is a new classroom. It's going to be a new teacher. There are going to be new friendships within the classroom. So it is important to, as Mrs. Sloan said, is every child will be different. And we do need to take this one by one. So the transition process is essential. But what I will say again, I think Mrs. Sloan did say it, but the 2 top tips are talk to your child about coming to big school. It is exciting for them. They're going on the next journey. The next step of their learning is going to big school. Talk to them about it and be positive, because that positivity will pass on to your child. And the more you talk about it, the more positive you are, the happier they'll skip through the door in September. So I hope that's answered the question for you.
Thank you so much. It's definitely something that we reinforce at GINS as well, right? Talking to your child and staying positive and respecting their pace. Thank you for these lovely tips. So let's go on to the next question.
Hi, Helen. How are you?
Hi, Janine. How are you? Good, thank you.
So the next question is, does my child need to be fully toilet trained?
Okay, this is a good question and one that we do get asked a lot. We do expect children to be potty trained for the start of FS1. However, don't panic. It is absolutely fine if the children have accidents. I know my daughter, she's currently in nursery, she's still having accidents. So coming up to FS1 with a new setting, a new environment, new friends, accidents are probably going to happen. So please do not panic. We will support you as much as possible in this. Just please send in lots and lots and lots of spare clothes, which are labeled, and we will get through it together.
Thank you. That's extremely helpful.
Yeah.
Hi, Lindsay. One of the other parents would like to know, do you allow twins to be in the same class, or do they have to be separated?
Hi, Philippa. So we actually have this year, just in FS1 and FS2 in St. Mark, we actually have 6 sets of twins. So normally I would say I would recommend twins to be split. And the reason we would recommend them to be split is because twins and triplets all have a very special bond. They will always have that special bond. But what we want to do is make them an individual. We want them to have their own independence. We want them to have their own friendships. And we want them to get their own personality. And what we've seen and what I've seen in my 20 years of teaching now is if the twins are together, they quite often will rely on each other and not necessarily develop some of the independent skills they need. But saying that, this year due to COVID, the majority of twins within our foundation department are in the same class. And obviously that was to minimize risk. By putting the 2 children from the same household within one bubble enabled us to minimize risk throughout our early years. But again, as I said, with the settling period, every child, every group of children are different. That we are we're very transparent. We are very unique in the factors. We will always take a parent's opinion on board. And therefore, if a parent has a concern, please come and speak to us. And we can have that conversation because we'll always ensure that we do the right thing for the child, because that ultimately is the most important thing. But what I will say is, another question we've had is, how do I prepare my twin to be split? Again, as we've said, talk to them about it. Often say about you're going to go into different classes, you're going to have your own friends, and again, be positive. They're the 2 biggest tips I can give you for if you are going to split the twins. But what I do want to do now is some of you may or may not know that I'm actually a stepmother of triplets. The triplets now are actually 19, and I've known the triplets since they were 4. So I have to say, they will to this day tell you the worst year of their life was in year 2, when they had to be in the same classroom. And that was because when they did their circle time and their weekend news, they were all fighting over who was going to say their weekly news. It was only a class of 20, and therefore there wasn't enough friends within the class, so they were fighting over friendships. It became such a problem. Their bond after that never changed. So even when they went through the rest, through primary and through secondary, they were always there for each other in the playground. They'd watch out for each other, they'd support each other. And I have to say, even now, one of them is flying to Portugal today because they've had a year out from university, and wherever they are, and two of them at university, they will look after each other. That bond of being a twin or a triplet will never end. So please trust us. It's important that they have their own identity and their own personality.
Thank you, Lindsay. I'm sure our audience today have really appreciated the personal touch that you've given. And I'm sure it's put them at ease as to the importance of twins and triplets, yes, being together, but also developing their own personality, their own interests, and their own friendships. So thank you. Thank you very much for that personal touch that you've given today. On to our next question, which is going to be read by Laura.
Thank you, ladies. Lindsay, it was really lovely to hear your family story. Thank you for sharing. I didn't know that one. Wonderful to have triplets around you. Okay, our next question goes to Miss Helen. And this one, I'm going to take a pen and paper because I'm sure this one will be useful for all the years to come. Okay, how do we develop children's personal and social skills? Now, the parent in question is asking for EYFS, but I'm sure, Helen, you can give us some great tips for all of the early years. Key stage 1, key stage 2. Please help us.
Thank you, Laura. So personal, social, emotional development, or PSED for short, is one of our prime areas in the early years department. And it is actually recognised as one of the building blocks to success in life. We support children's development daily with helping them interact with children and also help them in their attitudes to be positive themselves and to others as well. We also set up our environments in a way that allow turn taking, they allow collaboration, so that all happens naturally. We are a positive education school, and in the early years department, we actually focus on one value per week. So for example, one of the values may be forgiveness, and then all classes have a POS Ed elf, a positive education elf that sits in the classroom. And I'm just going to show you the wonderful POS Ed elf so you can all see how wonderful they are. And they have their own little bench as well. So basically, the children absolutely love these POS Ed elves. They sit on the bench and they watch the children all the time. And they're watching them promote the values and put the values in action. So for example, if the value was forgiveness, and if a child was building a tower and another child knocked over the tower by accident, if the child then showed forgiveness to the other child, they are putting that value in action. And then the elves are watching and they're going to praise that child and they're going to commend that child. And then the children then get to put a special gem inside a pot. And as soon as the pot is full, the class then get to have a special treat as well. So we do have a big focus on positive education within EYFS.
That's so exciting. I'd like to put a gem in that pot. Oh, amazing. Okay.
Thank you, Laura.
Thank you very much, Helen. Helen, it's really nice to share information with you. And I really do think that our families are going to feel incredibly supported. If any of our listeners have more questions for Miss Helen, please type them and we'll get to them as soon as we can. Our next question comes from Miss Carol. She's going to help us some more.
Thank you again, Helen, for sharing all about the lovely elves that the children have in their classrooms. It's lovely. We do promote positive education at GINS as well. So it's wonderful to get some ideas from Sunmark. Hello again, Lindsay. For the next question, the parent wants to know, does my child need an assessment to join school? And if so, what does it entail?
So assessments are a requirement to join school. But if your child is part of one of our GINS branches, then for the majority of cases, their assessments will take place within their classroom. So the nursery manager or the class teacher will do their assessment, which will be nothing other than observing them and talking to their class teacher. If possible at the minute, I'm going through GINS 4 and I've been in and out of every single class. So I'm in and out there seeing the children all of the time. So if it's not done by the nursery manager, it will be done by a member of the senior leadership team within St Mark. If you are not part of GINS, the assessment process is probably the first opportunity for a child to see the school, and therefore we would like to make it the most positive. We want them to leave their assessment happy. We want them to be excited and want to come back to St Mark, to come to big school, or to come back to school. So it's more like a play date. They will come and see, and they'll come into it, see us, and they'll play. The aim of the assessment is to see where a child is at and where we can start their educational journey when they join us at St Mark. If a parent stays with them, that's okay. Because just imagine if you as an adult, me as an adult, walking into a room of unfamiliar people, into somewhere huge, how does that make us feel as an adult? So just think about what a 2-year-old, 3-year-old feels as they enter assessment into school. So we don't want them to feel anxious. We want them to be excited. We want them to have fun. So ultimately, that's what the assessment will entail.
Thank you so much. Thank you for answering that question. And now on to the next question, which is definitely something that we get asked a lot at GINS regarding communication, being able to speak English.
Sorry.
I was trying to lip read, but it wasn't working.
Sorry. Parents here are asking that their children are not fluent in English. How will the school support the development of language?
Okay, so this is also a question we get asked a lot as well. Most children pick up languages far faster than any adult. So there is absolutely nothing to worry about at all. Communication and language is one of our prime areas in the early years, and it underpins absolutely everything that we do. Children will be immersed in the English language. They will have it through their play, they will have it through their projects, and they will absorb this and they will pick it up extremely quickly. So there is no need to panic. We also have our very own language program at St Mark, and it's called One Step at a Time. And initially, children will have an assessment, a very discrete assessment, and it will highlight whether the children are delayed in their language, whether they're developing their language, or whether they are then competent in their language. If children are delayed in their language, they will have 4 additional language sessions per week within the classroom. Children who are also developing and competent, they also receive additional language sessions as well. So this caters to all children's needs, so that all children make progress.
Amazing. Thank you for the information.
Thank you, Janine.
Thank you, Janine. Thank you, Helen. Okay, our next question goes to Miss Lindsay, and it's something all of us mummies and daddies worry about. It's about food, it's about break time. So our parent asks, how many breaks are there in EYFS? And at lunchtime, are there provisions to heat up my child's food? This question stems from a nursery parent because currently regulations say that nurseries are not allowed to chill or heat a child's food. Lindsay, can you help us? Can you heat our children's food?
Unfortunately not, Laura. So no, every school will be different and about how they approach this, but unfortunately no school that I know of will heat the food. But for that aspect, there is 2 options. Yes, you can bring, similar to nursery, you can bring a heated thermos flask with your child's food in that they can eat during lunchtime. Or as part of St Mark, we do have a catering on-site, catering company on site. So they can actually, you order the food online and they can deliver it to your classroom door. So if you particularly wanted a hot meal, that's how we could go about it. For the number of breaks we have in EYFS, currently this year is a little bit different. We have 2 breaks within the morning, but the normal school day is we start between 7:30 and 8 a.m. and then the end of the school day is 1 p.m. So the children actually go home for a lunch, but we have 2 small snacks throughout the day. Currently, these are within the classroom. So because of COVID restrictions, we can't have a canteen style. Prior to COVID, we did have something called a free flow snack. And this was particularly because children in FS1 especially would walk through the door in the morning and say they're starving. So very quickly, we taught the children to wash their hands, to go and to sit down in their clean space on our snack table, and they'd eat their snack. This obviously encouraged independence. And again, if a child's hungry, they're not going to be thinking about anything else, and then therefore their engagement levels would be a lot lower. Whereas, as I said earlier, engagement levels are crucial for those brain development. So therefore, this is how the free flow snack worked. But we also had a sit-down snack. So they'd sit in a lunchroom where they'd sit with different groups of children every day. And this, again, is a big part of our personal development. The children would actually sit down, talk to each other. The teacher might read a story and then ask them questions. But we'd also look at the traditional, how you're eating your meal. So we'd expect the whole class, the whole table should have finished a meal before anybody can leave. They have to clean up after themselves. They're pushing in their chairs. So we look at both elements to ensure that the full development of the child is accessed. What we do also offer at St Mark is an Active Minds program. So as I said, the school day finishes at 1 p.m. But from 1 till 5 p.m., we do have an Active Minds program. So if a child is staying for that program, we do have an additional lunch at 1:30. So usually the program is designed, it's not linked to the curriculum, but it's got learning objectives to the activity. So each day has a different focus. So we have on Sundays our art and design. So currently in our Active Minds program, they're actually looking at recycled art. So the children are developing their own art using recyclable paper. So they're actually rolling it and trying to make it into different items. We have a STEAM afternoon where actually only the other week we did, lots of you will know the volcano experiment where you have the bicarbonated soda and vinegar, but we did it a little bit differently. So we gave the children flour, salt, bicarbonated soda. We gave them a whole range of activities and they had to find the chemical reaction. It wasn't us directing them. So it was a lot more exploratory. So that was one afternoon activity in aftercare. We also do a music and movement afternoon. Sometimes they'll do yoga, they'll do another session with a music teacher. We do languages. So last year we had Spanish in an afternoon. This year we focused more on the French. And that's generally down to the parents' request. And then we also have an innovation afternoon. So it's trying to get them to invent something new. Because a big part of our curriculum is the imagination and creativity. Because we don't know, these 75% of jobs are not created for the children of the future. And therefore we have to enable them to be children of the future, to enable them to think out of the box. And this is how we base our curriculum to ensure that we are developing the children of the future to think out of the box. So I know I've expanded a little bit off the break times, but...
That was beautiful, and it really sounds like you have a wonderful balance between holistic welfare of a child and then the curriculum objectives. I know as a parent, you often think about the academics and what is my school going to help me achieve, but sometimes we forget to ask about the basic care. How is my child going to be supported in the washroom? Who's going to make sure that they eat something and their tummy is full so they can, in fact, as you've said, engage with their learning? Thank you, Lindsay. That was really, really supportive. And I know that our listeners are going to be very happy, and for sure they'll have been writing notes. Okay, let's find out from Miss Amina what she would like to ask us next.
Lindsay and Helen, oh my God, can we make a documentary about the amazing things that happen at St Mark School? The thoughtfulness that goes into children's needs is incredible. I mean, I'm sure parents are amazed to hear all those details that have been highlighted today. And for us as early years educators from the nursery, it is such a relief to hear that the incredible journey of children at GINS continues at EYFS, especially at our St Mark and Region International schools. And like us, you believe in catering to their needs and tailor making their journey as it fits and it supports them. Fantastic. I would like to say a big thank you. You both have been very insightful and for sharing your time and your expertise today, and the transition of children from the schools, from the nurseries to the schools. I'm sure parents have a better information and are in a better perspective of what's to be expected and how their children are going to be supported in the schools. What I would say is your insight is definitely beneficial and help all our mummies and daddies and carers who are listening to us today. And if all our listeners have more questions or need support or further guidance as you pass through this unknown territory, please do not hesitate to send us your questions. I'm sure we will be able to pass them on to Lindsay and Helen and Joanne at Region International School. Click onto the link of Sunmark School in our comment box, and you will be able to post the question online onto our website as well for them to answer it directly. But again, thank you very much for being here with us. It was really, really incredible to have you on board on our Tricky Thursdays session. Before we say goodbye, I would like to add that at GINS, we offer special discounts exclusively for graduating children who wish to enroll in FS1 and FS2 at either Region International School or Sunmark School in the subsequent academic year. Please, all mummies and daddies who are listening to us this afternoon and who are enrolling, and if you do not know about this, please call your nearest branch to find out more details about the GINS special discount, which only GINS gets, being part of the Fortis Education group with the schools. Thank you once again to all our beautiful co-host panelists who've been with me today, Laura, Carol, Janine, and Philippa, as well as our back-end behind-the-scene workers, Regine, who has been beautifully moving the screens around and ensuring that the right question is asked for the right person, Mohammed and Christina for working behind the scenes as well. I would say have a lovely afternoon, everybody, mummies and daddies, and all the children who will be joining the school next year. Do not worry. It's a beautiful environment for you to go and flourish. Have a lovely weekend, everybody.